Hi there, this is Aaron with A23D. And what I wanted to show today was how to prepare the SpiritBro pack interface board for installation. For those of you who don't know, the SpiritBro is a simple interface board that allows you to attach a Hasbro 1984 Spengler wand to a Spirit Life-Size Proton pack and retain your factory electronics. And this essentially provides power to the wand and tells the Spirit electronics when to turn on and off with the wand. And it doesn't require any major modifications to your pack. Almost everything here is pretty much non-destructive. There's only one wire clipping you'll have to do, and it is reversible if you do want to revert things back to completely factory. And let's just go ahead and go over this. All right, so when you're going to install this, this is basically most of the contents of the kit you'll get. You'll also get a battery adapter sled with power wire and a hose in some cases. And that will be the piece that actually goes in the wand and then connects back up to this board. And we will show that off in the next phase when we actually install this in the pack. So what you'll get here is a jumper wire, a small piece of, I guess this is another jumper wire, a set of lever nuts, a USB to JST connector. This is so you can power this whole system off a USB power bank, like a talent cell, which is what we recommend, and some screws, because this whole assembly screws on top of the factory electronics. So you take out the shorter screws and use these to hold it in place. And then I've got some tools over here, which I don't include. These are mine, obviously. But what you'll want to have is a small flat bladed screwdriver for this phase. And for future phases, you'll also want to have probably a small Phillips. These might be hex screws, so I think you might need some hex wrenches for those. This is going to kind of vary per kit as I change things out. So, just have some general tools on hand, and then wire strippers and wire cutters, which you'll need to do the next step. Okay, so going ahead and getting started here. What we're going to do is I would advise just getting the wires kind of hooked up before you try and put this in the pack to make it a lot easier, just because things are kind of tough to do when things are in the pack. So here's your board, and what we're going to be attaching today are the Spirit Electronics jumper wire here. This is the jumper or the connector for the wand power, which we'll do in the pack. This is the 5-volt out, and this is where bare wires go into here and connect up to the Spirit Electronics board. And you can do this two different ways, and we'll talk about that in a second. And then here is the battery connector. So this is going to go to your USB connector. All right, so first thing, let's just go ahead and plug in this Spirit Electronics jumper wire. It's a 4-pin connector. It's keyed in and only goes one way. And then this other side will go into the factory electronics in the Spirit Pack where the original wand plugs in. So when you get to that next step, we'll unplug the factory wand and literally plug this in place where it is. And basically this board at this point just becomes the old Spirit wand telling the pack what to do. And it's interpreting everything by reading the power settings off of the 1984 Spengler wands. All right, next thing you can do is plug in the USB power connector, which again, is 2-pin JST connector. It's keyed. Just so you know, all these power connectors are positive on the left, negative on the right. And that goes for the bare wire connector. All right, so the bare wire connector, you're going to want to take your small screwdriver and unscrew these pretty much as far as they'll go. And the screws will never actually come out of the assembly. But what you want to do is look really closely. And I don't know if we can zoom in here and see that, but you just want to kind of look at there, make sure that those jaws are open. They're pretty small little jaws. So now this is where I said you have two options. What you can do is when you're working on the actual Spirit pack, we're going to be cutting the original wires off of the battery pack that it comes with. And we're going to be basically attaching those wires that come off of the Spirit electronics directly into this board. So you can do that. You can actually cut those wires, strip those wires, and install them straight into this connector. And that's it can be a little bit challenging to do just because once this board is in your pack, it's kind of, moves around. And I don't like moving the factory wires around too much because they're really brittle. So what I would prefer to do is you can use this little jumper section that I provide, and you can take these wires, which will be nicely soldered and pretend. And again, make sure you get the red on the left and the black one on the right, and that's the positive and negatives. And so what we do is we just go ahead and line those guys up and stick those in the slots. And again, it's a little bit tricky to do here. It's because these are really small connectors. So once those are in there, just like that, I want to make sure they're in there pretty solidly, and you tighten that down. And what that should do, and you just kind of keep tightening, feel it become snug. Don't tighten too far, and don't try torquing on this thing too much. Otherwise, you could damage the connector or the board. All right. So then once that's in there, you should see that if you give it just a little bit of tug, it's not going to come out. And you want to make sure that there aren't any little, pieces of wire sticking out and shorting each other out. All right. So the next step is this is going to have to attach to the spirit wires you cut. So you would actually install these lever nuts next, which you just flip these open. And again, it's color coded, so you can't get it wrong too easily. And then you just stick these wires in there and flip the lever nuts down. And there you go. Give it a little bit of a tug. Oh, in this case, see, I didn't get that in there very well. So it came right out. So let's go ahead and open that lever nut back up. Insert that in there a little bit farther, and then drop the lever down, and that to make a nice solid connection. All right, so at this point, this board is prepped and ready to go in the pack. So let's do that next step of installing this into the pack itself.